calling to us from jolly old England across the pond. Hi,
Hey,
how's it going?
good and cold.
Yeah. What part of, because you're not in London.
I'm not in London. I'm in the Midlands, 2 hours north of London.
As an American now living in not London, England, what's kind of the, I guess, British impressions of America as we approach the fall of democratic capitalism is what brings us here today.
Sadly, the British impression of America and its politics are really based on general general American stereotypes, which sadly, after moving here, a lot of them are really true and obnoxious and embarrassing.
Such as,
A lack of awareness of others. It's a joke here that the British apologize to everything and everyone.
Mhm.
So if you're walking down
Sorry,
the
sorry.
street, if you're walking down the street and you walk into a lamppost, you turn around and you apologize to the lamppost.
Oh, sorry,
Um,
Lampo.
and that's the joke. But at the same time, especially when we see American tourists, there's no awareness of other people. There's no awareness of, I'm standing in someone's way, I'm blocking the whole sidewalk, or as they call it, the pavement.
The thing about Americans is that they say they speak English, but they've had to change it to make them understand it more. Go with me on this, because I've thought it through. So they've taken the English language, but they've looked at some of it and they thought, no, I think we need a little bit more explanation here, okay? That's my American accent. Things like pavement, so they've changed it to sidewalk. Yeah. They needed more information. They needed to know where they were going to be walking so that they wouldn't get run over.
Think of that.
Pavement, sidewalk. So I think there must have been a period of time where they ran with the word pavement, but they kept getting hit by cars. So they changed it to sidewalk. Now, bear with me here, John, because I've thought this through.
Yes.
And so, having to explain how different England is really taxing as an American expat over here.
How do people in your day to day react when they find out that you're an American?
First, especially outside of London. In London, they don't care because there's so many diverse people. But
Mm.
outside of London, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, you're not from around here, are you?"
As soon as you open your mouth.
As soon as I open my mouth, they'll just presume you're from America. So sometimes to mess with people, I'll say, "Actually, I'm Canadian," and to see the embarrassment on their face is hilarious and priceless.
Because to be a Canadian is that great?
Yeah.
Is that like, are you welcome to hang?
It's better that you're Canadian than American. When they do realize you're American, they'll sort of tilt their head and go, huh, almost judgy and apologetic in how British do it.
Just not say like, oh, I'm American, but say I'm from Gotham. Because then all of a sudden, like, ooh, that's exciting.
It's the places that anyone's been to, they'll say, oh yeah, I've been to America. And the top three places are Gotham, Disney World, and Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
In that order.
And what I think we're really discovering on a national level right now with how connected we are through social media, we are all seeing it. There's a lot more to these United States of America than just these little red pin drops.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stuff that goes unseen and therefore tolerated. And I know that you've lived in a few states that would have, been on the Confederate side of the line back in the day. Like, what was growing up there, especially as a Hapa, or no, not as a Hapa. I'm projecting onto you, being Asian American. What weird, like, unspoken things did you feel happening around you growing up as a gay Asian American?
Simply that I didn't belong. There's no other way to put it. I mean, I could go into the nuances and the details, but I never did actually belong anywhere. It was difficult. And the strange thing is that's what I've had to get used to. that no matter where I moved in the United States, whether it was perceived as progressive and liberal, left or right, I just didn't belong. And that wasn't because of necessarily all the time of what people said or did to me, but because of the systemic things that were obviously in place and not built for me or anyone like me. The extra tax I had to pay, the black and brown tax that anyone who's non-white has to pay, while different in every place, is still an extra tax. Even in England, I was I was going through the grocery aisle or the grocery store the very first week I moved here, and to see an aisle labeled as Oriental was jarring beyond belief.
Yeah. And
I
there's like cup of noodle there, right?
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
some like brands of soy sauce that were clearly not actually Asian companies.
Yeah. Texas Pete Sriracha. I
Right.
love that one. Yeah. That's everywhere you've gone.
Not everywhere. I mean, it's strangely that's just in one particular chain. It's one of the top 2 chains in the UK. So to see it maybe in a mom and pop kind of shop, I'd still be caught off guard, but wouldn't be as surprised as I was in that essentially a big box grocery store.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the mom and pop shops are doing better in that regard. They're like, oh, that's out of date, to put it nicely, because it's as simple as just like getting a new sign. But people, from things as small as, and this is what we talk about with some kinds of, this is a form of a microaggression. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Because it shows you, like, seeing foods that your family just like had often on the Oriental shelf means that, oh, you're Oriental.
Yeah.
You're a special aisle of the grocery store. And it's just like, oh, cool. Weird that I have this entire store, and then the one aisle that I get about half my stuff in tells me that, like, you shop in this section of the store. It's like, am I making the comparison I'm making? Yes. And that's why it's a micro aggression. Because when it's that small, you can't speak to it, because people are always like, oh, well, like, have you ever not been allowed to drink from a water fountain? It's like, no, that's so much worse. And we know that. But this is this is a version of the same thing. And we're all fighting against different iterations of the same evil toxin that has been in America from its inception and is in full control of the like nest now. That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. What's really interesting here is Britain's relationship with what they call the Orient, and that this concept of Orientalism, which I had to sit down and Google and fall down, that hole of learning. But Orientalism was a thing. Appropriation and tokenism of Oriental style, Asian styles.
The scholar Edward Said described Orientalism as akin to putting on a pair of glasses that distort your vision. As a result of these glasses, our perception of the Middle East involves seeing Arabs as exaggeratedly different. Often this difference comes in the form of exoticism, wherein the Middle East is portrayed as a fantasy land of desert, camels, genies, and flying carpets, and where women are belly dancers and men are seductive sheiks. This exaggerated difference often also comes in the form of a threat, wherein Arab men are portrayed as dangerous rapists or terrorists, and women as oppressed by brutal Arab men. Orientalism is a way of thinking and representing that assumes that there is an absolute difference between East and West. According to this logic, the West is seen as rational, developed, humane, superior, in contrast to the East, which is defined as its opposite: irrational, underdeveloped, barbaric, and inferior. Orientalist ways of seeing, understanding, and representing tend to cloud over a more complex and accurate understanding of Arab people and culture.
There was a period of Orientalism that was a fad in Britain. And so, whilst it was technically appropriation and tokenism, it was essentially welcomed at the time and was a thing and cool thing to do. Whether it's plants in their garden, statues in their garden, and homes, buildings. And sadly, despite the fact that it was partially microaggressive and just straight up racist, they just didn't realize what they were doing. And some of that language has carried on until now, including the term Oriental to describe anything or other things aside from a rug.
Right. Right. And I feel that's so hard when you say that they just didn't get it. They didn't understand, because like that's oh no, don't look at my search history. People are like, oh well, they didn't know and they didn't mean anything by it. But we do know now. And we do know that that was ill-informed and harmful. So why aren't we like leave it in the history book so that we know, because there's this crazy thing about history repeating itself. And if you don't want to, if you want to do better, then it seems like you should kind of see where we have failed civilization along the way and not do it. And I feel like we are falling into just these like so far past embarrassing traps in American democracy right now.
Hmm.
Is it that clear to see across the pond?
It's not as clear to see across the pond because the British are amazing at this thing called denial.
Aha!
I thought that the current leader of the free world was in denial already. But to see it in Britain is different, because the bottom line is that racism, the core of racism is still met. They still reach it. It's still here and very present. The only difference is that they came around a different door. They went completely in a circle and just came in from a different angle, that they don't realize how racist and systemically racist so many things are here.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, I would think, oh, these British shows that I'm watching have black people in them as lead roles, and maybe even some South Asian or Indian people.
And that's striking. You notice that because you don't see that.
But then I get here and I realized that they're just ticking boxes. And it's not an acceptance of different races. It is a tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And the denial that it is tolerance and not pure acceptance and welcoming is jarring, especially for an American to come and go, hold up, you don't get this? You really don't get this.
And that's so funny that you say that coming in there as an American, it's so easily recognizable to you. Meanwhile, in the States, we're having that, it's a parallel experience. Like it's really one story of Britain and America, because America was just kind of a fucking tumor that they lost track of. And then we have these two parallel white-skinned, European-descended nations. It's all coming from that. I keep repeating over and over that America was founded on native land and built on black facts. Like American history is a part of British colonialism.
Yeah.
This country doesn't really exist.
In my circle of friends, that does include Black British people. The conversation is always about, why do Americans not realize what slavery did to those black bodies and the black history that was lost, and that it was tarnished, taken away, and gone. Those conversations with not just Black, but also brown friends is the realization that Britain has done the same, just not to the same extent that was done in the colonies and in the United States altogether. There were slaves here. There were people that were told they have opportunities and then taken advantage of. And so it's strange that there is a bit of denial there, that they're like, Britain didn't have slavery. Well, not to the extent that America did, because when those colonists left and went to America, they essentially said, Britain, hold my beer. And they did it. They did it better. And by better, I mean worse and on a bigger scale. Generations gone. They don't know if their ancestors were kings and queens. And there's no way to find out.
There's nothing really to say in response to that, you know, and like I've engaged in this discourse around these themes many times. That's the circles that I'm in. But I also recognize that a lot of people never touch these circles.
Mm.
And something that seems so clear and obvious to you and I could potentially crack someone's like third eye or like release some fucking chakra or something. But like there is a truth that Trumpists are denying. And I call them Trumpists because people give me flack when I start talking about the GOP and Republicans and the long history of blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, whatever. Then like, it's not even the party that you're bragging about anymore. This is so far past like conservative and liberal lines. This is systemic human rights violations throughout our entire history.
Repeating itself. And I'm going to say that again. History is repeating itself. Revolution will come. More pain will come. I wouldn't be surprised if more people choose to cause violence within, I don't know, a week. Because we're at a tipping point, both here and there, where people are starting to really stand up and say, this is not okay. Let me tell you a quick story. Britain has this interesting tradition called pantomimes.
Mm-hmm. Before you go on, what I think most people, when they hear pantomime, they like, this isn't like a lip sync to something, or is it?
A mime in a box with, you know, an imaginary box around them.
It's not that. It's a full production.
Pantomime is a full production that's based off of a fairy tale that usually uses pop music. Families around Christmas time bring their children, sometimes even, you know, grandparents as well, to these theater shows that have a very structured kind of plot that's based around a classic fairy tale that I would bet usually isn't licensed properly to them. To tell a story and keep children engaged, but also slip in a few puns to keep the parents entertained. Right. Essentially a live Shrek.
Truly like it's a family event.
And it's an interactive, almost in-your-face experience where the lead dame, which is a man in a dress, not drag, clearly intentionally supposed to be a recognizable man in a dress, very comparable to the lead character's mother in Hairspray. You just know, and so that's supposed to be comedic.
What? I can't stop eating, your hairline's receding, and soon you'll have nothing at all.
Never.
So you'll wear a wig while I roast a pig. Hey, pass that Geritol.
I love pig. you just know, and so that's
Mhm.
supposed to be comedic
Right.
already. You're
Right.
already supposed to laugh at the man in a dress, which is antiquated in my opinion.
Yes.
But
But
it's expected.
it
Go on.
was, people didn't know, and it was funny. It's as simple as that.
You'll always be first string. Ring a ding ding. Oh! Oh, Wilbur. I can feel the bells.
I can feel the bells.
Don't mention the steeple. Carry me upstairs. I may need some help. All right. I'll carry you.
Timeless,
You're timeless.
timeless to me. You're timeless.
You're timeless.
You're timeless to me.
Last year, I was told, because of my race, of being East Asian heritage, that's what they categorize us here in Britain, East Asian, not just Asian.
Mm.
I was told, do not go see this pantomime in the city center. And of course, that made me go, huh, well, I want to see it.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
fairy tale this was based off of was Aladdin. And to a lot of people, especially young people, the association with Aladdin is Agrabah, a Middle Eastern or South Asian Indian inspired space.
Yes.
If you go into history and look at where it's actually based, it's technically a Chinese-based story that was last minute added to the book that is escaping my mind right now, Arabian Nights, I think.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
So the story of Aladdin, that's technically Chinese, was added into this book. The way that this is chosen to be portrayed in British pantomimes is in the most offensive manner. And when I saw this production last year, I saw people walk out in yellow face with,
Oh boy.
yes, Fu Manchus, Fu Manchus down to, the middle of their chest. Slanted eye.
Are you seeing these that I'm bringing up now?
Yeah. Slanted eyes being pulled back by tape and way too much eyeliner to make them look diverse.
Yeah.
I didn't last 5 minutes, man. I wanted to regurgitate my lunch all over the grandmothers and children sitting in front of me.
Laughing along, having a great time.
Laughing along, having a great time. The interactive bit started, not kidding you, within 5 minutes of someone saying on stage, right, when these two characters come out and they say this, you respond with, "Ah, so."
With what?
"Ah, so." Whilst
Which is
bowing and holding your hands together.
oh my
So
god.
to watch a theater filled with white Britons putting their hands together in prayer and bowing and collectively yelling back to the performers, "Ah, saw," was my last straw. I didn't make it to the next song. I left. I went straight to the box office. And what did this American do? In clear Karen style, give me my money back.
Full refund.
Full refund.
Karen
Well, why,
the
sir?
Tiger Mom, no less.
Why is something wrong? I find this show extremely offensive. Oh, what about it is offensive? My jaw dropped. I didn't know how to respond. Luckily, they gave me my money back, but they also said, let me get someone from the production team out here to talk to you about it.
I'm glad they took that step.
They did. It was not received well, the feedback.
Yeah. And
Even
just
though-
paint me a picture of this person.
Older, privileged white male.
Hmm.
He galumphed out into the foyer and literally looked up at me and said, what's the problem? And I said, this is offensive. So I don't see what's offensive about it. And I said, they're supposed to look like me? That's offensive. I said, but this, and here's the kicker, this is British tradition.
We're at the Theatre Royal in Windsor, where we've been performing in the pantomime Aladdin.
We're going to be taking you through our whole day, from our warm-up to our performance and what we get up to backstage. Let's go.
Enjoy.
Have a duet with anybody in the world, it would be Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge.
Stevie Wonder. It's got to be Stevie. It couldn't be anyone else.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you, Aladdin.
Thanks, Aladdin.
Now we want you to perform your best line of the show.
Love? You have a lot to learn. You'll never get anywhere marrying for love. Of course you do, my dear. You have a lot to learn. You'll never get anywhere marrying for love. My name's Rosemary. People call me Rose. I'm the Empress of China. Cut off your nose. Cut.
Hey!
Yes,
Thank you.
They're supposed to look like me? That's offensive. I said, but this is British tradition. This British tradition has been bringing so much money in to theaters around Christmas time. And it is a classic fairy tale that so many love and adore. That this is okay because it's tradition.
What was your response to that? Because I can think of a few off the top of my head.
I do not remember because steam was coming out of every orifice of my face.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what to do. I walked out. I thought, I'm going to tweet about this. Because you better believe I took pictures.
Mm.
I'm
And
gonna
looking
hope
around, was there a trace of me and my mom like to play this game when we go to, Too Many Zoos concert. There's going to be a lot of white people there. But it's a game called Find the Black People. And it's totally inappropriate. But when my 5'0" Filipino mother turns to me and she's like, let's play. It's a hard game. It's a hard game to win. If you played Let's Find the Black People, how many black people were in that audience, or brown or beige? How much melanin was around you that wasn't made up on someone on stage.
You better believe I looked. You better believe I looked high and low in that massive theater just to see. There were none in the seats. We're not welcome in that space. Those shows aren't built for us.
Mm-hmm.
The only person of melanin I saw was a young black girl on stage, maybe dancing, waving a flower in the background. But she was clearly young and needed to have, or probably just wanted to have stage experience. And those opportunities are limited here outside of London. So,
and to be in a room of adults who don't have anything to say about something about this being uncomfortable. No one has anything to say. And as a young black girl, what are you going to say? You're putting all that responsibility on a child? I need the white adults in the room, in the country, to take some fucking responsibility for what's happening. Because you're entrusting it to the people who are currently in power. And you say that they're going to, he hasn't come through on any of his promises. He started a wall, which is a horrible thing to brag about in the first place. And the funds to that wall went to Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
He paid $750 in taxes for a year. And for the 10 years before that, he paid no taxes. Give me that money because we're due it. I don't understand why people are satisfied with just voting him out because he is a traitor. This is treason. Mitch McConnell, treason. Mitt Romney, treason. Steve Bannon, why is this man walking around? Jeff Sessions, Betsy DeVos, poisoning in 4 years. That is huge in the development of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And look at Kenosha, Wisconsin. 4 years led up to that teenager crossing straight lines to shoot people at a peaceful protest. 4 years listening to this man in the highest office in the country and arguably the world. But it is very arguable at this point because we are not making a good display of our strength because we are run by a child and a bunch of straight, white, cisgendered American men who don't give a shit about anything but themselves and their own girds of their loins and no one else.
And that's what Britons are watching and cringing about. And what's worse is us Americans are watching our friends and family here cringe, and then sitting there embarrassed beyond belief. So you better believe I've already voted. My absentee ballot is sent. It's gone through electronically. And what's interesting is for whatever strange reason in terms of politics and race and diversity, it's almost like Britain's waiting to see what else the US does. Because even though they know what the right answer is here, they still haven't done anything. When I told you about this, going to see that pantomime, that was last year. When I piped up about it on social media, hardly any responses except for a few people in my circle saying, yeah, that's not okay. This year, after Black Lives Matter got kicked up like 20 notches, people are calling out publicly all the theaters around the United Kingdom that are doing this, that are doing Yellowface, that are doing Fu Manchus. Those productions are sadly still happening. I've seen one instance of a company changing language on one poster, but that's it.
Changing language such as?
From so-and-so and so-and-so starring as the Chinese policeman to so-and-so and so-and-so starring as the policeman.
Good job. Great job. You get your fucking cookie.
So sadly, what those of us who can think for ourselves here believe is that once this gets nipped in the bud more so in the States, that it'll give us more agency to do it here. When I really think we don't have to wait for the US politics and climate to change. I think if we step up and make the changes here, the US will eventually follow.
And that's really what it is. I feel this coming. I feel we are headed towards a more connected and compassionate world because we're going to have more eyes. It's in our own hands, which the government, I'm sure, is spying on us through anyway. But we're the one, sure, get body cams on all the police officers, but I'm going to be right there on the sidewalk with this. This is Selly. That's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Use it.
Yeah.
And that's really, we the people need to put the world on trial because we know now. We have for all the fucking cat memes and horrific whatever that the internet has to offer us, we also can just talk to each other. And when we're all talking about this, the patterns emerge. You just have to get off your fucking ass and do something about it. But people are so content to sit back and go and enjoy their fucking tea and crumpet or baconator.
You know what, though? As much as we all want the world to change for the better, reinvention is a decision. Reinvention is an active decision. And until those in power make that decision, nothing's going to happen. And there will be uprisings. There will be drama. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in Gotham when that happens.
You know, I worry less about Gotham than a lot of other places because we've seen this before. We're familiar with this song and dance, not on a national scale. But we saw Harvey Dent fall apart because he was hurt, because the system that he believed in turned out to be a sham. And so he stopped believing in anything. We've seen fucking Oswald Cobblepot become fucking mayor.
Right.
Because the rules are in place for him to do it. And that's why when people are like, oh, well, he played by the rules, then I don't give a shit. The rules are fucked. I don't give a shit what the rules are if they're 250 fucking years old. It's time to sit down and revise this thing because it is pathetic that we continue to govern ourselves by a document that you can barely read the ink off of anymore. Write a new one.
Right. It's scary. I mean, honestly, the deterioration of American thought is scary. And without people out there thinking for us in power and positive representations of diverse people, I don't know what to. I'm still processing the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Chadwick Boseman because of what they both represented. Honestly, the fact that we have no idea what the heck happened to Batman, I seriously am just confused and lost and worried because we need our superheroes, literally and figuratively.
And I don't think they're here anymore. I think if we were confronted with near apocalypse of 2009 today, it would not be near. It would be full out. And I don't know where our champions are. I don't know. All I know is that they're not here. And what that requires of all of us is to pick up a little itty bitty piece of that responsibility. Because someone once said something about great power. We all have great power within us in a distinct way. And with that comes a great distinct responsibility. To use, Trevor Noah puts it this way, is his like life goal is to change his world. Not the world. No one can change the world. Especially not now. You have to take off your piece of the puzzle and make sure you need to have the hope, and then more than hope, the knowledge that other people are picking up their pieces of the puzzle. And I don't see that hope right now. I see a lot of people who see the world that is presented to them, their world, and they don't see any hope.
Right.
And I don't know what to do other than look around me as we go into the week of quarantine, of social distancing, as we watch. We know exactly how the next month is going to play out. Trump's going to ram his nominee into the Supreme Court, and then his election is going to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to rule that there was a rigged election and Trump is going to be in power for the next 4 years. Give me a fucking break.
Somewhere deep inside of me, though, that hope lingers in that we're the cure. I really want to say I know for sure that we're the cure.
When you say we,
everyone who has the opportunity to tick a box on a ballot.
it really is our last defense of democracy. Bernie Sanders is putting it in no less terms than exactly that. It's Trump versus democracy. It's not hyperbole. And this really, that's really what, and I don't know how to reach people other than just putting things down for them to pick up. And that's what this channel is kind of turning into. But this is, if we don't get him out on November 3rd, then it's going to be a lot bloodier to get him out of the White House and our country up on its feet, because it's been on its knees. Or we know whose necks are underneath those knees.
Simply put, he's a magic show with zero tricks. And the only magic can come from us. I know it sounds super cheesy, but
it does. That's why it's so easy for such a cynical country to be like, okay, but I think it's what we need right now.
Yeah.
Is for people to believe in that. I remember when people stopped being Luke Skywalker for Halloween and started being Darth Vader. I remember that. It weirded me out. I didn't understand why kids would want to be Darth Vader. That was for the dads to be. Literally. For a kid to want to be such a clear image of the lost and the angry. There was a lot going on, but that happened along the way too. So I know you gotta run, my friend, my anonymous friend. But I really appreciate you taking the time, and yeah, thanks for picking up your puzzle pieces across the pond, and we'll continue doing it here.
Thanks. And thanks for just giving my voice a bit of a platform from across the pond, where we do miss home, we miss everyone, and we still want to do our part. And that we're watching with fingers crossed, as much as the next person, including our British friends here.
All right, man. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Love
you
very dearly.
We'll see you later.
Chase me, come on. You're round in third base now. Holy cow! I'll always call you home. Shabbat shalom. It's Jewish. But kiss me again. I never knew you were Jewish. First time this. You never can tell. Yes, you can. Oh, you have to be small for me, sweetheart. I can't concentrate with you jiggling behind me.